Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. I'm so excited to be here today with a very highly requested guest, Jeff
Mhm.
Reynolds from the Jeff Mara podcast. And so many of you have asked to have him on, and he actually had me on his podcast. So it's about time I had you on, Jeff. Thank you so much for being here today.
Well, thank you for having me, and it's nice to catch up with you again. It's been since last June.
Has it really?
Hmm.
Wow, that has been a while then.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's been great to catch up with you and hear a little bit of what's been going on with you on YouTube.
Hmm.
And I'll just give you a little introduction here. So, Jeff is a YouTube expert and content creator. He is a paranormal podcaster, video editor, musician, and chiropractor. And he owns YouTube channels that total over 1 million subscribers and over 1 billion views. And I think most of you know you can find him on YouTube at the Jeff Mara podcast. Is there anywhere else you'd like to direct people, or is YouTube really it for you?
I think that's really it for me. I'm on other social media platforms like Instagram and TikTok, but even there, those are really designed to push people towards my YouTube channel.
Right. Okay. Well, I will have that channel linked in the description. So I encourage you, if you haven't followed Jeff's channel yet, to go check it out. I've been a huge fan of it for a couple of years now. I can't remember exactly when I found you, but it was when I was going through my deconstruction process, and your near-death experience interviews really spoke to me. So,
Mm. It's interesting that you mentioned that you were deconstructing.
mhm.
What were you deconstructing?
I grew up in a very strict branch of Christianity, and so I was beginning to question those beliefs and move out of them a little bit. And then finally, I think I was 29. At the age of 29, I just, after reading and hearing so many near death experience stories, I just sort of let go of all of that, like all of the religious structure, and just
Hmm.
accepted the message of the near death experience, which seems to me to be pretty simple.
Mm.
Um,
That's
yeah, so you helped me in that way. So thank you, Jeff.
You're welcome. That's interesting because, see, I only knew from what I remember about your NDE. I didn't know this other stuff about you.
Okay. Well, I think that my viewers and I would love to hear a little bit more about you. So maybe we could start there. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you ended up being a paranormal and spiritual experience interviewer on YouTube.
How far do we want to go back?
However far you want is fine
Uh,
with me.
I've been on the YouTube platform since 2006, and so that's was even at a time before Google had acquired it. And my very first video is still there. My that original channel is called Jeff Mara. And for those of you who don't know me and may be confused, Mara is my wife. And even today, still on my in my channel, I'll see in the comments, because a lot of people will say, "Thank you, Jeff and Mara, for the video," and then people will go, "Who's Mara? I thought that's his last name." So, my dear wife is a very important unseen part of the podcast, and she does most of the editing. And anyway, so back then I just had that original channel, and that channel's still there. And my very first video, I used to have a sitar, and I was still a chiropractor then, and actually I still am now. I keep a license, I just don't practice. But it was like one morning I was just playing sitar before I went to work, and I just kind of hit record and record a video, and I just kind of played for like a minute or so, a minute or two, and uploaded it. And it just kind of started from there. I mean, in those days it was just something fun to do. I don't think there was any vision, at least on my end, and probably most people, that this would turn into a business. You were just kind of uploading for fun. And I kept doing it. I mean, if you look on that original channel, Jeff Mara, in the very beginning videos, you'll just see all kinds of just music videos I would make and little videos of just different stuff. And then about 2010, I started making children's videos based on Thomas the Train. and it took off. I mean, they just started getting traffic, and in those days, you had to be you not invited by YouTube to monetize your channel. So they invited me, and I was making videos, and back then I was making like 65 cents a day, and it was but it was great because it was just a hobby for me. I liked making videos. It was fun, and I thought, wow, I was excited making 65 cents. I thought it was so cool. And then we started making more and more children's videos, and they got more and more views, and ultimately by 2014, that original children's it just became a children's channel. Ultimately, it just became super successful, and so successful that I just decided to do that full time.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah. And so we developed another children's channel, and that even got took off even bigger. And but my kids grew up.
Oh, they have a tendency to do
they
that.
they they tend to do that, and they don't really have an interest in doing videos anymore, and as well as other changes that happened. So I ended up having to develop something for me, and I had this interest in the paranormal and supernatural. And then it was like right at the beginning of the pandemic I started this. It was in around May of 2020, and I was kind of still doing the children stuff and slowly building this, and over time it finally got to a point where it's doing really well.
Wow, that's amazing, and that's
Mhm.
really fast.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's fast. That's kind of from a point of view. It depends on what,
Right.
some channels can grow to 1 million subscribers in a year. It just depends
Yeah.
on on the channel.
Wow, that's really interesting.
Hmm.
I also started my channel the beginning of 2020, so that's just so interesting to me.
And we're about the same level. I mean, we're pretty
Uh-huh.
close, so
Yeah.
we're moving along. And
Yeah.
congratulations on the success of your channel.
Oh, congratulations
Mhm.
on the success of your channel.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's just amazing what you've done over there, making people feel so comfortable to share their stories. And something
Hmm.
I've noticed you've been doing recently is on Saturday nights, you do a live stream where you invite people on. Do you get a lot of guests coming on for those live streams?
Yeah. Right now, it's approximately, well, the people who show up and watch is about 200 to 300 people while
Mhm.
it's live. And then I just don't know. I mean, a lot of times, or most of the times, I have one guest that comes every time and gives everybody a group tarot reading.
Really?
Yeah, so that's fun. And he puts it into three piles, like one, two, and three. And you choose your you choose your pile, and this is your reading. So we kind of usually start there. And then sometimes it's just packed with people who want to come in and share. And it's like
Mhm.
packed from people from the beginning to the end because I go for approximately 2 hours. And then sometimes I'll have a guest, and then it takes 30 minutes before someone will want to come share. So I'll
Mm,
talk about what's going on in the channel, and what's to look, here are the new guests for the next week, and maybe
right.
here's some interesting stories I found on the internet. And then usually, like I said, within 30 minutes, maybe even less like 20 minutes, people will start showing up, and then it can be busy all the way till the end.
Mm. Wow.
Mhm. It's fun for me personally because I love meeting a person that is just some spontaneous person that I've never met that just shows up and tells me their story. So
Wow.
I like it.
Yeah, that's got to be a good feeling.
Hmm.
Well, I did ask my viewers to send in some questions,
Hmm.
and I don't know if you saw the post on my channel, but I got a bunch of repeat questions. So I think I'll just start with those. What got you interested in the paranormal and supernatural? Is that something you've always been interested in, or did something trigger it for you?
It's kind of an interesting. I mean, that's an interesting question, and it's kind of a loaded answer. I kind of include the paranormal with science fiction too.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess science fiction goes back to, childhood as far as Star Wars.
Right.
But more, I guess, paranormally speaking, I used to listen to this show called Coast to Coast AM. A lot of your viewers may know of it. It's on
Yeah.
every night on the radio from well, in Central Time, my time, it's from midnight to 4 a.m. Depending on your time zone, that's, that will be for you. And I started listening to that because I was a musician and a DJ, and I would be out late at night. So I would usually stop playing a gig around 1 and pack up my gear and drive home. And so on the drive home, I would listen to the radio. And then sometimes I would lay in bed at night and still turn on the radio and listen until I fall asleep. That's, I guess, you know, between science fiction movies and television and this paranormal radio, those are the two main factors that got me into it.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, a lot of people would like to know, or they asked me if you've had any spiritual experiences yourself. And I know from my conversations with you that you've told me you haven't. Did you
Mm-hmm.
have any type of religious or spiritual background at all?
I don't. My mother would be what people would consider a new age person. So
Mm-hmm.
I've kind of had that philosophy. I never went to church unless I spent the night at a friend's house, and the next morning, they went to church and I would tag along.
Mm-hmm.
And my father was I don't think he was atheist. We never really had many spiritual talks, but he was a military man, and I just think, he just didn't really have an interest.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you could say I have kind of a new age background.
Hmm. Do you think maybe that's contributed to you being as open-minded as you are towards other people's experiences?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. A lot of people have some variation of this question. Have the interviews you've done changed your personal beliefs or views at all?
Yeah, I think that's true, and I think they're constantly changing.
Mhm.
I mean, I have so many guests that have so many different opinions on spirituality and what happens on the other side. And for example, one guest thinks that the most important thing in our life is resolving past karma.
Mm.
And then I'll have another guest maybe a week later that says karma doesn't matter. And
Mhm.
I feel like they're both right. So and for me, I keep, vacillating back and forth and changing my ideas. And as I mentioned to you before we were recording, I should be writing all this down, and I don't. I even had a guest once, and I think she was a channeler, and she said the channels told me that you need to start writing things down. So, but yes, it does affect my views. They're changing, and I from from talking to so many people about their near-death experience, I would say that I personally fear death less.
Yeah, I can relate to a lot of what you just said,
Mhm.
especially about how guests will make statements that seem to be contradictory, but yet at the same time, I have this feeling that they're not. And I
Mhm.
can sort of see how they could both be true, but different people just have a different perspective of it. So Jeffrey Carfagna, and I'm so sorry if I'm
Mhm.
butchering anybody's name here, but
Oh,
uh, Jeffrey asks, what is the most compelling and convincing interview that you've ever done?
see, this is one that I should have written down. Compelling and convincing. I first want to start that, or I want to maybe make this statement that almost every video I post, there's always somebody that will say, "This is my favorite."
Mhm.
And so I have my own personal favorites. It doesn't mean they're any better than anybody else's video or any more compelling. They just resonate with me personally more than others do. And it's almost I have to be careful as because a lot of times the ones that I think, wow, this is going to be a great, this is going to get tons of views and everybody's going to love this video, it doesn't end up being so. And that's because, the videos resonate with me different than everybody else. So I
Mm.
try not to get in the viewpoint of being, I wonder if this is going to be, this is going to get a lot of traffic or not, because like I said, I don't know. I never know. But to
Right.
answer your question, Jeffrey, my favorite indie, if you're there, did he ask for NDEs or just videos in general?
I said interview in general.
Hmm. Interviews in general. Probably one of my favorite interviews in general would be, and gosh, again, I'm stuck because I don't remember his name, sorry. But we talked about singing Hugh. And for those of you that don't know what Hugh is an ancient word for God. And I think his last name is Mr. Jones. He's a Juilliard guitar teacher, a very famous jazz guitarist that he came on and taught us Hugh. And so in Eckankar religion, and I guess it's a religion, I'm not really sure if it is or a spiritual practice, the people sing Hugh. And so he came on, he taught us about singing Hugh and just his different experiences with singing it and his own NDE as well as perhaps his own out of body experience. It's just something that when you ask me that question, that's kind of like a video that pops up into my brain. Like that's kind of one that kind of I found most compelling. As far as near death experiences goes, my favorites are the ones where near death experiencers encounter aliens on the other side.
Yeah, I love those too.
That's probably the sci-fi in me.
Yeah. Yeah, and actually that's one of the questions I was going to ask you is what is your opinion on the aliens and the UFOs and whatever's going on with all that?
Um, well, I definitely think that, there are, aliens out there. There are other civilizations. I mean, there's billions and billions and billions of planets. So definitely they're out there. I don't know how much of your audience is into UFOs or not, but if you've seen the videos that have come out from the Navy in the past couple of years and the TikTok videos and um and some of the things that those UFOs can do, I don't think even the government can make them. From for a ship to be or a vehicle to be 50,000 feet in the air and then within a second or two be 100 feet in the air. I just don't think we have the capability to make it yet, even if it's some hidden, technology that we don't know about. The governments have it. I don't think they're there yet. And one of the things that's fascinating is for them to get that distance that quickly, there should be a sonic boom, and there isn't. And probably the G forces inside the vehicle would probably crush a living being to death. So maybe it's a drone, but again, I don't even think they have drones that have that capability. So I think they're there. I don't know. I've never seen a UFO. I wish I could come on and give you guys a story and say, I was out in the balcony and I saw a triangular craft, but I haven't personally seen one. So I can only go on the stories of my guests and the stories that I read on the internet.
Fascinating. And I agree with you that I also believe that there's something legitimate going on there,
Mhm.
especially with the government admitting it.
Here's something I want to say. I think is because I've done about 400 NDEs,
Uh-huh.
and I want to get your take on this. A significant amount of people end up pretty quickly in a room with a door. So why are they, I can understand they go to heaven or they're in light or in some kind of light out atmosphere or a cloud. But why is something so, I don't know if the right word is mechanical, but something literally like a room with a door?
Right.
What do you think about that?
Like something so like physical in
Yeah,
nature. Oh, sorry.
exactly. Yeah, that's a
Hit my
great
mic.
word. Something so, yeah, perfect, physical.
I guess I've always sort of thought that maybe it's for the familiarity because people are still coming out of this life and maybe to help them orient themselves. You know how some people will see um, a beautiful landscape or a garden or something. But I haven't done even close to as many interviews as you have.
hmm Yeah, it makes me think about that. And I've had a couple lately, and I think I may have one more where People are waking up in pods like the Matrix.
Hmm. I haven't heard any of those. I'm going to have to go back and listen to those interviews
Yeah.
that you did.
Yeah. And my favorite one, that, like I said, I'm a sci-fi person, so this is gonna give you context to why it's my favorite. But I had a guest who woke up in a pod, and basically she was told that we're all on a spaceship traveling to the next planet because we trashed our last one, and we keep reincarnating, while we're going to the next planet. And hopefully we're supposed to be learning something too, so we don't trash the next place we get to.
Wow. Well, I'll get back to that in just a minute. I wanted to say something else about the first question that you asked with the room with the door.
Mm,
One thought that I have about that is I think that there are more physical realms, like in the astral realms, or maybe, I don't know, that's just a word that we've put on them, but I think you
mhm,
know what I mean. Like there's some realms in the afterlife that are more physical, where they have buildings that you can go in, like the library that people will see, or
mhm.
the room that has the table with the council of the elders. And I
Right.
think maybe those exist with some sense of physicality.
Mhm. Ha- Another commonality I see is the library that you mentioned is
Hmm.
of Greek or Roman architecture.
Yeah.
Are you seeing that?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
I hear that all the time and read it all the time too.
Hmm. So it's cool to be with another NDE interviewer and kind of compare notes.
Yeah, absolutely. About the experiences in the pods, that sort of leads into another question that a lot of people are asking. Um, an idea that's sort of been gaining more steam on the internet recently is this idea of the reincarnation, soul trap, prison earth
Hmm.
theory, and it's freaking a lot of people out. And so I've
Yeah.
had a bunch of them asking, ask Jeff what his thoughts are on that.
It's funny you mention that because if you look at videos, I guess the audience can't do that anymore, but they used to be able to see how many likes or dislikes a video got. And but I think we as creators can see that, or at least get a like ratio. And the video of mine that got the worst like ratio was of a guest who said basically the same thing. That is a common story, the soul trap. And he'd come on, and I think he called these evil beings the archons. But basically, yeah, whatever you see on the other side, it's just you're not seeing Jesus, or you're not seeing family members or whoever. They're just tricking you so they can send you back, and they're living off our negative energy. I don't know. I mean, I hope not. I generally don't think so, because first of all, so many people feel so much love on the other side that tends me not, tends me to think that's not true. But if anything's possible, I guess evil beings could bombard you with love still to kind of trick you into coming back. I wonder if you see this, and you probably do. A lot of people are, I don't know if forced is the right word, but they're told you have to go back. It's not your time. So is it, and a lot of it's probably maybe they have more things that they have to do here. But I guess you could always ask the question, or again, that kind of comes back to, are we being forced back? And if so, I hope it's just we're all on a spaceship and we're just needed to be forced back because we're not to the next planet yet.
Right. Yeah, a lot of people will ask that question about, do we really have free will, or are we being forced to come back here?
Mm-hmm.
And I never thought about it until someone else brought it up, because a lot of near-death experiencers will sort of be pushed back into their bodies. And I always just thought, well, there's so many things that we don't understand from this level. It could be kind of like a parent telling a child you can't run into the road, and they don't really understand why, you know what I mean?
Mm, yeah, you're exactly right.
Along those same lines, the other question that people really want me to ask you is, what are your thoughts on the hellish near-death experiences?
I think that most of the time they occur when somebody's on drugs or some types of medication or in a coma.
Mm,
That seems to be the pattern that I see. It doesn't mean that every coma winds up into a hellish NDE, and nor does it mean that everybody who has an NDE, like when they have an overdose of drugs or whatever, ends up that way. But it seems like those are kind of the common denominators. Um, Generally speaking, most of the time, from my guess, either they call out to God or Jesus and they get out.
mhm.
Obviously, they all got out because they came back.
Right.
Right. And even, I guess, to go one step further, I think it's some kind of a state of mind you're in, or you may want to say where your energy's at. So if you're on certain type of drugs, it can put you into a state of mind or reduce your energy low. So when you are on the other side, you're not in a good place. And that seems to be what causing it. But I don't truly believe that there is a hell. And so I don't think people should worry about going to hell.
Mhm. Yeah. I've noticed the same exact things about the drugs and the coma.
Mhm.
Those seem to be two common themes with people who have hellish experiences.
So do you believe in hell?
No, I'm right on board with what you said. I
Mm.
don't believe hell is a place that people go. I guess I would say I think that if a hell exists, it's a creation of consciousness, like people who are in a similar state of mind being drawn to the same place. Although I don't think place is a good word because it's not a physical location. But we create like of a collective consciousness creating out of a really maybe low vibrational state of mind and being. But again, I even question that because in some of the hellish experiences, you'll have somebody end up in a place like this and they'll say, there's millions and billions of souls here. So how can that be possible? That almost seems like they may have created that whole experience in their mind. So maybe it's an individual creation. But I definitely don't think it's the type of thing where people go there and they get stuck there. I really do think, like you said, it's a state of mind, whether it's an individual creating it or a group of souls creating it, if that makes sense.